quickly.
Thank you, Chairman. And I just want to remind the committee that Kevin Sunday's wife is about to deliver a baby, his second son. So we all have to appreciate the attention that we are getting his attention on this very important day. But let me direct some questions to you to see how alert you are, Kevin. So the first is, are you aware that the International Energy Agency and others have stated that it's virtually impossible to reach net zero carbon emissions without carbon capture?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so to capture carbon, won't power plants and industrial facilities need a new source review permit to add this equipment?
It's fact specific if NSR would apply, but they're going to at least need to go through the lengthy determination process.
Thank you. And since NSR is a complex and convoluted process, EPA, for example, EPA has issued more than 690 guidelines and policy documents on it over the recent years. Would you agree that this process discourages implementing carbon capture and other clean energy technologies?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, so in your testimony, you said therefore, we need to reform NSR. My question is there NSR reform in this package?
Not based on my reading of the bill, no.
Thank you. So why should we expect anyone across this country is going to do carbon capture? So when you factor in, it takes 2 to 3 years to get a permit, an NSR permit that costs millions of dollars to achieve, and that assumes 2 or 3 years without litigation, and then add the 5 to 6 years for the engineering design, the permitting by the states, and the installation of this equipment. We're talking about, it's conceivable that a utility company or a manufacturer could take 7 to 10 years to install carbon capture. So I'm back to you, Sunday. Is it reasonable then to assume that we can expect an 80% reduction in CO2 emissions by 2030?
No, sir. I believe that'd be a very tall order without further reforms.
And what about 100% reduction in CO2 emissions by 2035 in power plants?
No, same thing.
Okay, so let me change this direction just a little bit on this and go to plastics, because that's part of it under Section 902. During the pandemic, do you recall the shortage of plastic masks, gloves, shields, and gowns under PPE?
Yes, yes.
And it was painful and life-threatening for our healthcare workers to not have access to PPE. So if the current manufacturers were unable to meet the demand last year and the year before, wouldn't it make more sense to make more facilities, have more facilities to produce more masks, gowns, shields, and gowns?
Yes, we should have a streamlined permit process to accommodate that type of dynamic market.
So I think it's fundamental here. Now, so you turn to Section 902 of this bill, it withholds permits, new permits for facilities that would produce plastics or the raw materials to use to produce plastics. Could this section therefore prevent the opening of the new petrochemical complex north of Pittsburgh in Minocqua, Pennsylvania, or the one being planned in eastern Ohio?
Yes, I believe that language would jeopardize future investment into those types of facilities.
So seriously, we just experienced a shortage of PPE, and this bill calls for more restrictions on the plastics industry? Mr. Sunday, am I missing something?
No, sir. And beyond PPE, we use plastics in automotive devices, weatherizing homes, recreational products like canoes and backpacks. We actually use some petrochemicals in not just storing and transporting the vaccine, but the component itself to capture the messenger RNA so it can cross the bloodstream. These are vital life-sustaining products and medical devices that we rely on. As you mentioned, just to be clear, my wife is not going into labor like at this moment. We're a couple of days away from that, so I'm not being negligent by any means, but I appreciate the well wishes there and the opportunity to speak before you this morning.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Sunday. I gotta say, it's just bizarre that in a bill of this importance, that there's something in there under Section 902. I just hope we look at that very seriously, the impact it could have on us. And I yield back my time.
Yeah, gentleman yields.